Hey, this is Miracle Max. Welcome to Rise of Kingdoms. And hope you're doing good today. It's a Saturday for me, so I am excited to get to spend a little bit of time recording. And I'm back with you again today in Sunset Canyon. And if you have not watched my first video on Sunset Canyon that gives a big overview, I'm going to put a link in above and watch that first, just so you have a general idea of how this event works. Because today I want to talk to you more about commanders. And in Sunset Canyon, you're picking commanders for two purposes. The first is for defense, and then the second is for offense. Um, in defense, when you're picking commanders, you are choosing them without knowing who you are facing and what army types or what commanders. So it's a little trickier than matching armies against known forces. So when I think about doing this, there's a few different ways I could go, different directions in picking commanders. The first direction I could go is I could pick some tanks. And what I mean by tanks is in this configuration, the way this works is your enemy, when they're attacking you, will always attack whoever's directly across from them in the front row. So if I get rid of these other ones here and just take it down to Richard. If Richard is there on the map and there are two armies directly across from him, both of those armies are going to come forward and attack him. Now, if he is a weak commander, he's going to die quickly. And if he has no one behind him to support, he's going to die even more quickly. So having a commander in this position that is a tank that can take a lot of damage is going to allow your other troops time to help out. And there are several tanks in the game. Now, as far as, and let me go out of here and do not save that. As far as in your commanders, and again, this account, which is the only account that has this released on, doesn't have the greatest commanders. So if we look at commanders by rarity, probably the best tank in the game is Richard. And what I mean by tank, there's some different titles you can look for. Richard is a defender. And a defender is a tank. A disabler is also a tank. And some commanders just have a special skill that allows them to be tankier. So the best tank in the game right now is Richard combined with Charles Martel. And both of them are defense forward. They both have skills that can absorb massive damage. If you look at this skill for Charles Martel, he can take a lot of damage and then gives a little more damage. If you look at Richard's first skill, it puts up a shield and does a lot of healing. So his shield is a debuff. It reduces how much damage the enemy can do to you. So in that first position as a tank, that is your best choice. But there's some other commanders that will work too, and I want you to know which ones those are. So we talked about Richard and we talked about Charles Martel. Cao Cao, for a cavalry leader, actually has a little bit of a defender or disabler in him. And this part where it says decreases target's attack by 40%, that can help a lot if you are looking for a tankier cavalry unit. Other tanks in the legendary tier, El Cid has a pretty good skill here in his rage skill, and that is as a disabler. He disables normal attacks and active skills for 1 second. And, 1 second every 10 seconds can make a big difference. That's a 10% of the time that he is disabling enemy troops. If we cruise on down, again, a lot of these guys have a little bit of defense built into them, but that isn't their major skill. In the epic tier, Scipio actually is pretty tanky because of this first skill where he reduces damage and then increases attack. He's actually doing both things at the same time. He actually, as a as a commander, as an epic commander, does a pretty good job being a tank. Here also in this second skill, he can heal some of his troops, and that will help you also. You can also, as a tank, use someone like Joan of Arc. You know, Joan of Arc was nerfed. Her skills were nerfed in this game, but she actually has a good buff if you have a mixed troop. If you wanted to use her just as a tank, though, she increases infantry units' health, so that's going to keep them alive longer, and she increases cavalry units' defense. So that's two ways that she can also function more as a tank in this game. And I'm just looking through Herman. Herman is another one who has a tankier skill. This second part of this first skill decreases target's rage by 100% and silences the target for 2 seconds. So that is 2 rounds out of every 10 that the target does no damage to you, and it slows down how often their first skill releases. So again, another tank that you can use. So take the time and look at your commanders. Go through. You know, it's important that you have high level commanders for your main commander because that determines your troop size. But your second commander, maybe you can pick up a lower level commander that actually has good tank skills. And that will help your troops stay alive longer on the battlefield. All right, if we go back into Sunset Canyon again, and we look at that defense, another thing that you can do is you can stack up some AoE commanders. And what AoE commanders will do is if you are being attacked by 2 troops at once, or if you've got a bunch up happening on the map, your AoE or area of effect commanders can do damage to multiple armies at the same time. And since we know we're going 5 armies on 5 armies, that can be a pretty good advantage if you have some strong AoE commanders. And Yi Seung-yi is a very strong AoE commander for archers. He does specialize in archers, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But let's go back and look at other AoE commanders we have. And if you don't know your commanders well, this is a great time to learn about them, a good way to practice them without suffering any deaths. So if we start by looking at legendary, the first AoE commander we have, like I said, is Yi Seung-yi. In his first skill, he has a fan-shaped area where he's doing damage up to 5 targets, and it does do a greater amount of damage to the first target than the second or the third or the fourth. It reduces by 15% each time. But that still is a pretty good hit. Con is single. Mehmed has a great first skill also for an AoE, and he is also doing damage up to a maximum of 5 targets. Same thing where it reduces by 15% for each additional, but another good one. The difference between Mehmed and Yi Seung-yi is specific for archers, where Mehmed can handle any troop type and gives bonuses to all troop types. So he can be a good one to use there too. Saladin, sorry, some of these are very new to me. All right, Saladin is not a AoE. All right, if we go down into the epic section, Bybar actually has an AoE target too. So if you're looking to run a unit of cavalry in this matchup, he damage factor is a little lower, but we know that these are epic, and most people have some good epics, so he would be a great one for you to use with a cav army. Again, 5 targets. At the same time, the march speed reduction doesn't play in on this, but 1,000 damage factor to 5 targets. So that is your cav option. If you are looking for an infantry option, Sun Tzu is your best at this level. Again, 5 targets, and the great thing about him is it's a double turn that he does AoE damage. So on the first turn 800, and then on the second turn an additional 200. He's also has this bonus where if he's hitting multiple troops, he gets to this skill quicker. He gains an additional 50 rage for each target hit. So he will, instead of it taking 10 turns to have this skill active, it will come across much faster because of that 50 additional rage. All right, and if we go down to archers, and this would be a good pairing with Yi Sung Yi if you're looking for an all AoE archer, but we have Kusunoki Masashige. And Kusunoki has a couple great things to him. The first thing is he removes the negative effects. So anything that an opponent's army can do to you in addition to regular attack, it takes away. And then he does AoE to 3 targets. The damage factor isn't as high, but it does do it for 2 seconds. So it's a double 250 after the 300. So it would be 300 on the first second, 250 on the second, and then another 250. That totals at 800, so that puts him in the same range as everybody else. All right, so that covers AoE commanders. The third kind of commander you want to think about for this type of attack is your nuker or your skill commanders. And when you have a tank on the field, tank troops, tank armies generally can stay alive for a long time, but they're not doing a lot of damage. So having a nuker behind them or a skill commander directly behind them gives you the effect of staying alive and doing a lot of damage. Excuse me. Starting at the top again, this is where Minamoto comes into play. Minamoto has a great first skill of direct damage, and he is pretty equal to where Khan is on this, and Khan again is another one we'd pick, but he's doing 1400 first time and then a 50% chance to do 600 for the next 2 seconds. So he could do up to 2600 as far as the damage factor total, which is pretty insane. Khan is also a nuker, and Khan, again, cavalry, has a damage factor of 1700. If you upgrade this skill, commander expertise, then that first skill can be used twice in a row 30% of the time. So you could do up to 3400 in direct damage, which is pretty crazy. Other nukers you can, actually Cao Cao doesn't have a good nuke, so let's scroll down. Mehmed is a nuker, so AoE and nuker, that's a great combination there. Hannibal has a pretty strong first skill, his direct damage, but also damage and defense. So he's both, he's a tank, and he can be a little bit, maybe not a nuker, but a stronger attacker, especially if you do mixed armies with him. Saladin. I love Saladin. I should have mentioned him earlier. He doesn't do as much direct damage, but boy, overall, he's a really strong commander if you're doing Cav. And if you have him developed, bring him to the party, please. Okay, when we get down into epics and we're talking about epic commanders with good nuke skills. For a generic commander, Boudica has one. She's not troop specific, so she's going to be helping everyone out. She's got a damage factor of 1000, and she decreases the enemy's attack. Other good ones, if you're going with cavalry, Bybar has a skill, and again, he was an AoE too, so he's a nuker and an AoE. Scrolling down, Pelagius, not quite as good as those other ones. His total goes up to 900, but he's fair for this. I'll give him that. The best nuker at the epic tier would be Herman. And Herman, when his first skill is in expertise, does a damage factor of 1150. So he's also someone you could use as a tank and as a nuker. Any other ones I would use? That's pretty much it. Osman is okay. He's not as good, but he is a non troop specific leader. So if you're doing a mixed army, he is great for this, and he can go with any kind of troop. All right, so that was a lot of commanders I just went over. And thinking about all of that, how do you put all that together in the game? If we go back into Sunset Canyon, and I go to set up my defense, and we'll just clear everybody out, I'm going to first put down a tank, and I want to absorb damage. And if I had the choice of all commanders and these were strong, I would do Charles Martel behind Richard. And because these are both infantry commanders, I'm going to go with all infantry. Now, because my commanders aren't that max, unfortunately, I can only do 86,000 troops. It would be much better if I could do a bigger army. So we'll put him down. Behind him, I'm going to put a nuker. And the reason for this is he's a tank. He's not going to do much damage, but he can sustain. So I'm going to put down, because he is infantry, and normally people would attack infantry with archers, I want something that can counter the archers behind him. And for that reason, I would bring my strongest cavalry unit, nukers, behind him. And that would be Minamoto partnered with Khan. And I would put that as cavalry. Unfortunately, again, they're not very developed, so I can only get 95,000 troops on the field. I want a second tank in this battle, and of my tanks still available, I would probably, since Scipio is level 50, I would throw him out there. And I really like the disabling of either Herman or Alcide. Again, it just depends on who you have available. But I'm going to put Herman behind him because he also does damage and is a disabler. Herman, let me go back here and look at Herman real quick with you. I don't want to change out of that. Okay, forget it. We'll go back in. I'm sorry about that. All right, we're going back and we're going to do Scipio. And I know a lot of players only have epics. So I want to kind of do some epic matches up for you. So I'm going to use Herman because of his disabling. And since my other front row one was infantry, I'm going to go ahead and switch this one and throw down a... Let's throw down some archers in the front row. All right, behind those archers, because archers get beaten by cavalry, I want to throw down something behind it that takes on cavalry real well to do the damage for that. So I'm going to go with infantry. Now, the infantry leaders that I have left are going to be all epic tier, and the two best infantry for epic tier are Sun Tzu and where is, I believe it's Ulji, or is it, sorry, I'm thinking, yes, Ulji Munduk is the other epic tier that is infantry. Come on, Ulji, there you go. Oh, that's Kusinoki, that's not going to help me. Have you gotten good at saying all these names? So I'm going to throw down infantry behind that. And again, it's all about matching your commander so that it makes sense against protecting yourself. Because this is defense, we're not matching against what we see. We're matching against, we're trying to plan ahead. Now, in my last position here, because it's only a single unit, I want to do something with mixed armies so that I am not at a disadvantage on the field against anybody. Now, as far as who I have left that would be good for mixed armies, at the epic tier, I do have Osman, and he's pretty good against mixed armies. So is Boudica. Some other ones that I could choose as mixed armies, and again, these aren't very developed. Mehmed is probably a better second than Boudica is, so I'm going to go ahead and put Mehmed out there. And again, this is up to you who you're choosing based on what we talked about. I am going to make sure this is mixed so that they have no advantage against me based on who their commanders are. So there's my last army. And I'm going to confirm that, and that is my defense now. This video is getting long, and I don't want to go too much too much further. We're at 19 minutes. So let's do one quick attack where we look at what they have. And again, because my commanders aren't great, I am going to, probably not win. I'm going to look at the power and try and take on whoever's lowest. And we'll hit challenge this, and I'm going to look at what we have over here. So we have Yi Sung Yi with all archers, backed by Minamoto with all cav. We have Cao Cao with cavalry, Pelagius with cavalry, and Richard with infantry. So let's clear mine and go ahead and try and do a good matchup. Oh, that was mine that I was looking at. How funny is that? Go, Nicole. Okay, so we have Cleopatra with infantry, Boudica with infantry. It's interesting. Are these all infantry or are these all cavalry? It's really hard for me to tell. We have mixed troops. It looks like infantry to me, but I honestly cannot tell right now, so I'm going to assume they are infantry. I do not want to do cavalry against. So against Ethelfled, which is a mixed army, and Sarka, I'm going to go ahead and put up my best tank. Since there is a double army there, I don't want to lose to two armies. So Charles Martel is low. I'm going to go with my spearmen. Behind that, I'm going to go ahead and put my best nuker to go ahead and get some damage and knock down those troops as quickly as I can. Across from Boudica, Cleopatra, and Cao Cao. Cao Cao is cavalry, so let's put down our best infantry that we have left. Again, that would be Sun Tzu and Ulji Mundok. Against Boudica. Let's go with another cavalry pairing. We'll go ahead with Bibar, and we'll throw Belisarius behind him. Bibar, again, will do the AoE damage, so that's going to be helpful. And up top, Cleopatra is just a lives forever kind of player. So we'll go ahead and throw down Scipio, and I still have Mehmed, so we'll throw Mehmed with him. I can use any troop type I want, and I'll go ahead and stick with infantry. So let's see how we do. That was a really quick choice on my behalf, and we'll see how it works out. Here comes the battle. All right, we're going straight across. We've got double matches happening in the center where we have two troops attacking. Everybody else is going head on right now. Bibar is taking a beating. Sun Tzu is okay. It looks like we're all right on this matchup. So our double beat their top one pretty quickly, and now we'll take down Sarka. At the bottom, we are winning with Sun Tzu, but just barely. Scipio's winning at the top, and we're going to have to help out against Boudica because Bibar is about to die. There goes Scipio to join Bibar, or to take his place, I guess, against Boudica. And in just a minute, we'll have all of our troops head to the top after Cao Cao goes down. All right, and one of the things I said in my previous video is that the rewards for this event are not great. I look at this more as a chance for you to get out and practice, for me to practice how to pair commanders. It was a pretty sound beating there, which I'm happy about. I will take that win. And again, the rewards, 5 golden keys really isn't that big of a reward. 20 hours isn't that big for a week-long event. But again, hey, any reward is a reward, and this is a chance to get out there and play with your commanders. All right, I'm going to end this video because we're nearing 20 minutes. Thank you for watching. If you have questions, if you want to discuss any of these commanders or pairings, when I have a chance to actually look at them and talk to you about them in detail, I would be glad to do it. Just leave a comment on the video. If you like this video, throw a like on it. And if you're enjoying this content, please subscribe, and that tells me to keep going at this. All right, thanks so much for watching. You have a great day. Bye-bye.